Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round two, where we're going to explore the 80-20 principle, why the lazy server makes more than you. The first series, we discussed the sodas and shrimp story and why you're losing money. Now, the important key is to understand the 80-20 principle. 4 years ago, The Economist changed my life forever. His name, I'll never forget. I literally just made that part up. My dear friend Vilfredo died almost 100 years ago. What the hell does this have to do with you and your tips? I'll tell you, you're working the wrong shifts at the wrong restaurant, working on selling the wrong products. And you're spending your time doing little bullshit stuff that makes you feel good and you think you're getting positive feedback from your guests. When in reality, the lazy server has stumbled upon the 80-20 principle. They don't even know what's happening and they're making a lot more money than you are. We're going to update you, educate you, and get you up to speed. I'm going to share with you my story on how I stumbled into this and what I've discovered in selling steaks at a steakhouse, and how you can do the same at any restaurant that you work at, particularly fine dining, high-end steakhouse. So let's jump right into it. The 80-20 principle, the mathematical formula he used to demonstrate a grossly uneven but predictable distribution of wealth in society. So 80% of the wealthy and income was produced and possessed by 20% of the population. 80% of the results come from 20% of the effort and time. This is what the lazy server has discovered, and this is what we're going to share in this episode. So the list is indefinitely long and diverse. The ratio is often skewed even more severely. 90-10, 95-5, and even 99-1 are not uncommon, but the minimum ratio to seek is 80-20. The second one is Parkinson's law. Now, kind of like Parkinson's disease, Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law dictates that a task will swell in perceived is in parentheses. A task will swell in importance and complexity in relation to the time allocated for its completion. It is the magic of the imminent deadline. If I give you 24 hours to complete a project, the time pressure forces you to focus on execution, and you will have no choice but to do only the bare essentials. If I give you a week or to complete the same task, or 6 days, 6 days, you'll be making a mountain out of a molehill. So it's important to understand these two principles here, understanding the 80-20 principle and then understanding Parkinson's law. So how does this play out when you're waiting tables, and what does the lazy server know that you don't know? Well, the lazy server knows that all they need to do is get more tables, and turn those tables faster. Let's repeat that. You can upsell as many desserts as you want. You can upsell as many appetizers as you want. But the server who turns the most tables is going to make the most money. That's the secret here. So I work at a steakhouse. This is going to be applicable to most people working at high-end steakhouses, where you have an entree that's going to cost between $65 to $100. That's the main course. That's the steak, bone-in filet. Okay. You can upsell as many cocktails and desserts as you want. But if you get one more bone-in filet, or if you get two more fillets at $65, $70, that's $200. Everything else comes along with it. And you turn those tables, you rotate those through, you focus on getting the 80-20 principle down. 20% of what you sell is going to give you 80% of your revenue, which means your tips. Super important here. How do you get more tables? You show up early, you stay later. That's an easy way to do it. You gently keep an upbeat pace to the next course. You get them quickly into ordering. You quickly get them out the door in a respectable, appropriate way. If your assistant is responsible for resetting tables, your priority is to help the flow of new customers into your section increase. That's going to be the 80-20. The more steaks you sell, the more money you make. So it's a balance of the Parkinson's law, which states that if you're given a shift and you're given a certain number of tables, you're going to fill those tables up and just let them eat. That's what the lazy person understands. And the hard worker, the person who wants to make more tips, the uninformed waiter doesn't realize that you focus on selling entree steaks, transitioning your guests to the next step to get them eating and then get them out. Number one, limit tasks to the important to shorten work time. So that means if you're in the restaurant, you don't want to be doing side work. You want to be taking tables. If you're in the restaurant, you don't want to have open sections. You want to be taking tables. A shorter dining experience equals steaks and out, steaks and out, steaks and out. Now, obviously, we're going to talk about wine sales. We're going to talk about selling shrimp, and those are important. But the main takeaway is to get somebody into that seat who's going to be ordering entrees. So deconstructing the entire process. So if you want to have a higher per person check average, you just need volume. You need number of tables turned and rotated per day and per week, because no matter how many steaks you sell, if you pick up an extra shift, you're going to get an extra 40 steaks. Picking up an extra shift is optimal. At the end of your shift, pick up extra tables to get those extra entree orders at the end of your evening. That's going to optimize your day. Now, to optimize the dining experience, when a guest is eating, you're going to learn to sell the most expensive steaks. You're going to learn to recommend them appropriately, and you're going to tell a story around them. So you highlight what the most popular steaks are. You let them know what your personal favorite is, and you explain the dish creative and using a lot of their senses, visual, taste, and experiential story. Somebody sits down, we're going to quickly get them into the mood of what is this thing you're talking about. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. The tomahawk is our most flavorful steak on the entire menu. It's a bone-in ribeye, which is the most flavorful cut of meat. The bone enhances the flavor. My assistant brings the steak out table side with 2 hot plates. He carves it off the bone and splits it in 2 perfect portions and plates it up for you. It is a show. It's an experience. It's the most flavorful cut of steak on the menu. And if you haven't had it, you've got to try it. The last table ordered one to go for their friend, for steak and eggs the next morning. You can throw something like that in there so it lets them realize that it's not an uncommon thing and that there's other options. You can take this to go for somebody. Next thing you know, you get somebody ordering a steak, and then they go, "Oh my gosh, I can take one home to my buddy, my husband. I can take one home to my friend," and now you've got 2 steaks sold. It happens. It's not outside the question. And what you're doing also is you're setting a high anchor so that they're not thinking, oh, $60 for the steak over here versus $154. No, they're thinking about an experience. You painted a picture. You're drawing their taste buds out. How's that? And so these are things to consider. And you want to consistently do this. You want to get used to doing this. You want to build this into your language, and this will help with your sales. So that's a little module on the 80-20 principle and why you need to know it. When we talk about the lazy server understands that the more entrees they get, the more money they make, and they can do less work. Instead of talking and bullshitting and just telling stories and chit-chatting with your tables, you can have another table. Now, obviously, there needs to be the business flow behind it. But again, that's why we're working at these busier establishments, these larger corporate restaurants. So that's a big component here, things that we want to understand, 80-20 principle and why it works. The next story is, the reason that this is important. If you can understand that people are coming into this establishment because so people are coming into this establishment because they have brand recognition. They know what to expect. They've heard about it. They're not coming into this place uninformed. They're not stumbling into this restaurant. And so that gives you clearance to guide them through the best experience possible. And when I first started working at this restaurant, I thought that I had to tell them all about these different types of steaks and guide them through this menu and create these crazy pictures. Most people don't give a shit about that. Most people don't care. They just want to come in. They want to have a great experience. They want you to be attentive to their needs. So if their glass is full, they want you to get it. But they came in to have a dining experience, and you're going to give them that experience. So, and the steaks are the highlight of the meal. The entrees are the highlight of the meal. If you're at a high-end steakhouse, this is going to be the key takeaway. They didn't come to a high-end steakhouse to get chicken. Some people, some people do. I understand that, but it's called such and such steakhouse for a reason. So if you guide them into that, then you're doing your job, and that's what we're here to understand. So anyway, this is the chapter where you really want to understand that taking those tables consistently, it's going to picking up a shift per week is going to get you more volume that week. If you're there that day, picking up extra tables is going to get you more volume that day. And then when you're at that table, the best way you're going to get it is through the steaks. So rotate those tables through consecutively. That's it. That's what we got. Thanks for watching. Go get them.